So let me just speak a few moments about intuitive evangelism. I think, we've learned loads on evangelism over the years, haven't we? And the programmatic, we know God's story inside out. We know our story inside out because we've lived through that. And together, all of those things together can enable change in someone's life in an incredible way. And I think over the years, I've developed a way of intuitively doing it. So between you and me, I often feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But on the day, nobody would ever know that, okay? Because what I'm trying to do is tune into, I'm using my intuition to go with where the flow of the Spirit leads me. And that may sound really floaty and really chaotic, but within it, I've pioneered many ministries through doing that. And I've led thousands of people to Christ through listening to the Holy Spirit, which I believe is our intuition. So, intuitive evangelism is very much more about feeling your way and not being afraid to go where your discernment takes you. So like who to speak to, what country to go to, what street to go to today, who you're going to pick up the phone to today. And it also is intuitive evangelism about how you approach the story of God and how you tell it intuitively. So it never comes out the same way, which is great because that makes it less boring for me. I'm not just reeling off like a document that I've just written. I'm not reeling something off. Everything with me is live and kicking, even this talk. I've got a few notes, but some of it I'm just trying to go with the flow as much as I can. So the first thing is, I think there's three things, there's always three in there, but there's three things that I would say are really vital in intuitive evangelism. Jesus spoke in John 5:19-20, about how he only did what he saw the Father doing. And you and I can become practitioners of that way. So I've had days where I just have availability. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to tune in to where I see the Father is going. Who's he speaking to? Where's the assignment today? What street is the Holy Spirit flowing in, where there's going to be an opportunity to share faith? Who am I going to bump into today? Everything is an opportunity that we do in life for being intuitive and being drawn by the presence of God. You see, the problem is we can get caught up in the doing. We can get caught up in our programs, and then we neglect the one who the program is actually about, Jesus himself. So how do we sustain ourselves in this? Is by sitting with the Holy Spirit, sitting with Father, Son and Holy Spirit and listening deeply, and then trying to tune into that and going, I'm going to visit these people today. And I may share if there's an opportunity, but I'm going to listen to what they've got to say to me today and then go with the Spirit when I'm speaking to them. Everything we do comes out of relationship. The people you're working with is all about the relationships you have. Some people connect with us, other people don't. That's okay, because God will send someone else who they like a bit better. And that's fine, it's diversity. But you see, we cannot do evangelism, this is what I believe, and ministry without being connected to Jesus. Isn't that, that John thing? I only do what I see the Father doing, because there's fruitfulness, there's favour, there's blessings, there's things there that we can draw on that we wouldn't have if we're doing it how we think we should do it. So it's more about the flow of the Spirit. So the bottom line is listen and then go do it. Listen, go do it. I think God is interested in the details in people's lives. He was in mine, so he would be in other people's. And we only have to look at creation to see that, and the way he's weaved himself into people's lives throughout the Bible. So look at Abraham. He sent him to be the father of many nations. But Abraham sat down and he listened. He heard God say something. Pack up your bags, take your family and go to this place and stop when I tell you to stop. That takes some guts to do that way. Noah, when he was building the ark, everyone said he was mad, but he said, no, I've heard God and I know there's going to be this flood and God's told me to build this ark. I'm doing it. And then the flood came. He listened to his intuition, that impression on the inside that I think the movement of God is here. This is how I've done church services in crack houses, by listening to the impression of God. Today's the day I'm going to go and do that. If I'd have gone yesterday, I might have got into a little bit of trouble because there might have been some of the people there. Or if I go tomorrow, the person that we're looking to do the little service with may not be there. So it is about listening for that breakthrough of God of like, yes, today's the day you're going to go and you're going to go do this, so be prepared. And you're prepared because you've listened. The second thing is about being prepared to stop when needed. So, Paul, Apostle Paul, he went on many mission trips, didn't he? And he did some amazing, if you read the book of Acts, amazing missional endeavours is what I would say. But on a couple of occasions he was stopped by the Holy Spirit. He actually was stopped. And I don't know if you've experienced that. I have. In Acts 16, I think you can read that story 6 to 9, they were stopped at the border from going in to Asia. They were stopped. So they thought, I don't know what we're going to do now. We'll go on this road here then. And then God spoke to Paul in a dream, and he saw a man crying out, begging them to come to Macedonia. So he thought, we'll go there then. I've heard from God, we'll go. A bit of Abraham style, isn't it? I'll go. And not being afraid to go with the flow of God because he knew the favour of God was there. So I had a mission trip once booked to Uganda. My flights were booked. My bags were packed. I went to the airport. I got to the check-in and I can't go. I know I can't go. I cannot go on this trip. And I was one of the main keynote speakers in a big conference. So I said to my husband, who drove me in the middle of the night to go and do this conference, I'm really sorry, but I don't feel I can go. I feel God saying no. He says, fine, we'll go. Let's have some breakfast and we'll go home. It's fine. Rang up the lady, Florence, who was running it. Said, I'm really sorry, I've heard from God, I don't think I'm going to come. That's absolutely fine, dear. You do what you need to do. No hostility whatsoever, and I felt at peace. I had peace immediately that I'd made that decision in myself. And I turned on the TV 3 days later thinking, why didn't I go? What was wrong with me? I should be there now. What was in Uganda? Riots. All on the streets of Kampala. There would have been no movement. Nobody did any conference. Lots of hostilities, lots of bad stuff going down. So God stopped me for a reason. When God stops you, there's always a reason. But it's that tuning into that intuition and going, I'm not afraid to listen to God and do what he says. And it's often the random things, who's the person you're going to visit? You feel an impression on the inside. I just feel this person's just come to my mind. I think I'm going to go see them today, and I'm going to share the story of Jesus today. And maybe a little bit extra of my story. I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable. The randomness of God is often the moment the Spirit is hovering over someone, ready so they can hear what you're going to say. Amazing, isn't it? So it's not programmed and it's slightly chaotic, but boy, there's some real blessings in it. There's real fruit there, and people have a tremendous breakthroughs. I've seen that over the years. Finally, I just want to speak really, really quickly about knowing when to push in with the message of Jesus and when to pull back with the message of Jesus. And that's quite important, because sometimes we can think, I've got to tell you about God, I've got to tell you about God because this may be the only chance. You might die tomorrow. And I've had those moments with people, and I've taken that. And I won't do it every day in that way, but there have been moments where I have thought, if I don't share this with you now, I don't think you're going to be alive in 2 weeks to hear it again. And that has actually happened. So I've shared the gospel with one guy who was on his deathbed, pretty much had a few weeks left to live. They didn't really know the prognosis at that point. And I shared about the power of Jesus and the resurrection through the tomb of death, which I know sounds really difficult to hear, but when you're facing death, people need a story that's going to connect with them. He wasn't offended. I kind of knew what was on about, so it's a story that's speaking right into your life, and it's a true story of Jesus coming out of his tomb into his amazing life, reconnecting with the Father after death. And he received Jesus that day. I said, can I pray with you to receive Jesus? Yes, definitely. Fantastic. I think he died 2 weeks later, sadly. But he knew Jesus and he went through that door of salvation, which is fantastic, isn't it? That's what we want for people. It's what we long for people. contextualization of your message. That's a massive word, and you're going to think I'm a real boff, but I'm so not. But I just like that word. So how do we communicate the message in a conversation into somebody's context is all that means. And, you know, we could reel off sin, death, salvation. We could do those things. And certainly that has to be part of the story you're sharing. But Jesus mainly told parables. He told stories. So I always think, what's the story of your life that connects with the story of somebody else? Share a bit of that and share how you met God and share how that's impacted your life. The more we do it, the more we get out of it, the more we understand our faith. You know, Philemon verse 6, the more you share your faith, the more you understand the love of God towards us and towards others, and the more we'll want to do it. Another time is, I had a lady who'd made I'll finish with this I think. She'd made a pact with the devil, and she was part of a witch's coven, and she was a sex worker at the time, and she was like their sex worker for their events that they put on, as they do. And I thought, I have to come and share the message of Jesus with you, but this is the final time I'm going to see you because things are getting quite dangerous for me, as you can imagine. And I thought, as I was driving there, I remember thinking, right, God, I need some ideas here. I need some ideas. How am I going to speak to her so she can hear? Because sometimes we speak, but people can't hear. And I remember reading a book by Michael Green, the evangelist. And in that book, it said, he explained about the demonic, that every demon was present at the crucifixion of Christ and at the resurrection. So every demon knows it's lost. The fight's over. He knows that Jesus has won. And so I thought, I'll share about that. And as I got there, she's talking about the blood pact she's made with the covenant, with the devil and everything. And things were getting weird, like I said. And I said, I need to tell you, the only way you're going to be free of this demonic blood pact you've made is by the blood pact of Jesus, because he made one for you on the cross. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's the only one who can set you free today. Would you like to receive him into your life? And I know he will set you free of this thing that you're caught up in. She says, I completely understand what you're saying. I don't want to be free though. I want to do what I'm doing now. I was like, all right, fine. I have to leave you then, but I need you. I couldn't leave this place without offering you your freedom. And I'm sad that you don't want to take it. It's not my choice to leave, but I have to for my own good. And I've told you the truth. And if you accept it, the truth will set you free. Anyway, I walked away from that, and I felt rough from that for weeks, months, thinking I'd walked away from someone. But 3 years later, she called me up on Facebook. She says, is you the Alison that used to pick me up off the street? So I went, yeah, it's me. And she says, I want to just meet you and say thank you. I'm no longer part of any of that. All the other people that were involved have died. I'm the only one left, and I think God's been active in my life. Can I meet you and say sorry? I want to say sorry for you if I've hurt you. Amazing. She's now got 3 lovely children that we dedicated a couple of years back. And so God is always in the intuitive moments, you see. And I think if we can take the shackles off our programmed minds for a moment and try something slightly different, I think what you'll find, it will free you up to communicate your message, and it will free you up to have fun and not be so scared when we're giving the message of Jesus. Because I always think, what's God going to do here? This is interesting. What's he going to be up to here? Who's he going to set free? Where's the Spirit hovering? I'm trying to look to see that. Even when I'm preaching, where's the Spirit hovering? Who am I connecting with? Who am I speaking to? It's so much more than saying the words on the paper. It's a living and active flow of the Holy Spirit, isn't it? And he chooses you and I to work through. So I just pray for you really that you have a really blessed time in thinking deeply about intuitive evangelism. And the best thing is, have a go, and within it all, be yourself. Don't try and be somebody else. Be yourself, because God's made you and I unique. Maybe you slightly trying things a little bit differently and not being afraid to. If it doesn't work, try something different. It's okay, isn't it? We're okay. We're allowed to experiment. St. Paul did. I know that. He said, well, that path's not working, so I'm going to go this one. And that's how we need to be in the kingdom. adaptable, flexible, and using our intuition. Have a really blessed day. Take care.